It's Chuck from Above the Basement, Boston Music and Conversation. Okay, so this is our 50th episode, and Ronnie and I decided to have a State of the Conversation. What an amazing year. We've been downloaded in all 50 states and in over 50 countries. We can't say enough how much we appreciate our listeners and the positive feedback we've received. We've been fortunate to have some unbelievable talent on the show with unique stories and wonderful performances from all walks of music. Classical, jazz, hip-hop, rock, singer-songwriter. It's becoming a long list. The rest of 2017 is filling up with more brilliant artists, performers, and Boston movers and shakers. We hope you get a chance to discover what they have to offer. Okay, so here is our conversation, recorded at Woods Hill Table in Concord, Massachusetts.
Okay, you get your water there, brother.
Cheers.
50. There you go.
It's a nice clink.
Let me pull up these questions. What time is it? It's 10 after 6. All right, so this is when we first started this, we said that every 10 episodes we would have a State of the Conversation, which we kind of gave up after our third, I think. We did our first one when we introduced ourselves, and then we did a 10 and we did a 20.
And then now we're at what, 1,000?
We're at 50.
We're at 50.
This is our 50th. So we figured it's a good time as any to have this be our 50th. Have that be the State of the Conversation.
I look at this as halfway to 100. This is a half.
How'd you figure? Why did you think that? I don't understand.
Well, you can either divide or you can subtract. Either way,
your lips are moving. I don't understand what you're saying.
It's impressive because it's impressive to me and to you. I don't know about anybody else, but we have 50 states, right?
Yes.
Of downloads.
50 states.
Well, I didn't say that correctly. We have downloads in 50 states.
Yes, 50 states of downloads. That's
like 50 Shades of Grey.
That's deep.
You emailed me. I didn't realize this. You mentioned more than 50 countries.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I don't know. I could name probably just like 15 countries.
No, there's like 170 something countries or something like that
in the world.
I believe yes, in the world.
There's 170 something countries
in Kansas. There's 170 countries.
Okay, so are you saying
I'm averaging that out, but
right, I'm going to look it up while you're talking.
Google that because I don't want to sound like an idiot.
Go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah. So we're in China. We've been downloaded in China, Australia, Norway, Japan. Did I say Russia already?
Okay. Sorry, there's 196 countries in the world today. Taiwan is not considered an official country by many.
How about yesterday? How many?
Well, it fluctuates, but I mean, you would bring the count to 195. So if you take some simple math, we are in basically a little bit more than 25% of the world.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah, not bad. Someone's listening to Chuck and Ronnie over in Japan, baby.
You said someone was in Namibia.
You got a little bit in Africa, yeah. We got a couple things in Africa, not a lot, but
and definitely Lithuania.
We're in Lithuania, and I think we're in Iceland. Definitely, I don't know if we're in Greenland.
So, if anybody cares or is listening, then we can give you a whole list.
No, we're going to keep it secret. I don't want to out any country. So, what we thought we would do. We would steal an idea from a couple other podcasters. They live in
one lives in Liverpool.
One lives in Liverpool, and the other one lives
I don't know,
not in Liverpool. They had their 100th episode, but they don't publish as many times a month as we do. I believe.
I wouldn't make this a competition.
It's not a competition, but they've been around for like 5 years.
Yeah,
and so I think
they're awesome.
Yeah,
I'm starting to get used to their accent.
They're great, and they're funny, and they're clever, and it's called Soda Jerker.
Soda Jerker.
You're the one who introduced me to them.
Yeah, I Facebook messaged those guys. David G. Moore, one of our guests,
That's right,
good
David.
friends. He talked to us about it, and they have an interesting niche because they're similar in some ways to us, but the different niche is that it's all about songwriting.
Right.
We bring that up in our podcast, but we have a different thing going on. So I like that.
And they get big names, too.
Yeah, a guy named Paul Simon.
I heard of him.
So, yes, as Chuck said, we are shamelessly stealing an idea.
Yeah, so for their 100th, they had a Q&A where they had their listeners, their many listeners. I don't know how many downloads or how many subscribers they have, but they certainly have probably a lot. And so they had people email and through social media, ask them questions about whatever they wanted to ask, about the podcast, about them, about their thoughts on life. And we thought that if we put out our feelers and ask people to send in questions, we might get like 1.
3. Or I thought 3. But
3 maybe if you're optimistic.
Okay.
1 from me, 1 from you, 1 from my mom.
Yeah.
And maybe your mom would.
Oh, I think we should start with your mom's first question that she asked long ago. Well, I'll get to that, but I want to ask that question for Gloria.
Okay. So that's what we decided to do. We decided to write our own questions. We'll have to think up names on the spot, where they're from, and where the question is coming in.
So what we're saying, Chuck, is that, just so I get this right,
yes,
we're going to announce a fake question.
Well, no, it's a real question.
Well, it's a real question that was not asked by somebody, but we're going to falsely connect that to a human being that we say that, and that person is going to be a real person or a fake person.
I don't know. That's the magic of this whole exercise.
Podcast improv.
Yeah, that's the magic.
Okay, well, let's start.
Okay, you wanted to ask the first question?
Yes, this question is from Gloria, your mom, who is a real person and a real question, and this was about 1 year ago. And she said to Chuck,
yes,
or Chucky, whatever she wanted to call you,
yeah,
why are you doing this?
Why are you doing this?
And I think that was the emphasis on some of that enunciation. Why are you doing this?
But it wasn't with that same face you have right now. It was more of like a...
Why are you doing this?
Confused, yeah.
Oh, yeah. It was a squint.
It was a squint.
Why are you doing this again? That kind of thing.
And what in the world? What is the purpose of this?
Yeah.
She wasn't trying to be denigrating. It was an honest question. And a legitimate question at the time.
Yeah. No, you're right. I think it was more like, tell me, why are you doing this?
Well, yeah.
It wasn't like, why are you doing this, you loser? It wasn't like that.
There might have been some undertones in there, but we'll give her the benefit of the doubt. My mom has been very supportive, so we don't mean to bash her.
Oh, totally.
So why did we do this? Okay,
why don't we have her on as a guest?
As a guest? I don't know. We could have her as a guest, like Letterman had his mom in as a guest.
We should have our parents on as guests.
Well, not your parents.
Oh, come on. That's not nice. They'll come in all the way from Vermont just for it. They've listened to
They'll get
every
here and
episode.
they'll be all pissed off from traffic, and I don't know.
I'll get a text from my mom that's like, great episode on Martin Sexton. Who's that? Love him.
She sounds like that?
That's how her texts sound. Every time I get a text that says, hey, Ronnie, how
all right,
are
stop.
you?
That's giving me a headache. All right, so we've said this a couple times on the podcast, so I'll keep it short. So the reason why we're doing the podcast is because Ron and I are in a band called the Butler Frogs. We started playing together, and Ron started a singer-songwriter series called the Deer Mountain Singer-Songwriter Series.
Yeah.
Is that what it's called?
Yeah.
And where he would have local, really talented people come, and he would rent out a stage and have his own Ronnie Hirschberg band learn their songs, and they would play their songs, and they were really talented folks. They were all Boston area, and you play the music, and they talk a little bit about it, but I was always kind of wanting more as far as who these people were, what their story was, how do they get by, how do they make a living, what do they do to make money in music, do they tour, have they played for anybody, all these questions that I thought would be really cool to talk about. And I thought it would be a great outlet other than the band, and also a great way to meet musicians, and just something interesting to do.
Yeah.
So I bought some microphones and got some software, and we just did it.
Yeah, you said, hey man, why don't we do a podcast? And I said, what's a podcast? And
is that like a blog?
Oh yeah, some people say.
How's your blog?
Don't know what a blog is.
Let's get that question out of the way. Is when people ask me how my blog is, this is not a blog. A blog is, as I understand it, a written word on the computer that you can type your thoughts and ideas and articles.
I thought it was like, how's it going? Like, hey man, how's your blog? Like
like
how's your blog?
How's it hanging, kind of thing. No, it's not what it is.
My blog is doing well.
So it's not a blog. A blog is written word, I believe. I mean, unless there's different versions of blogs. But
yes,
podcast is audio, people talking, or music and other things.
I have a feeling that the people listening to the podcast know what a podcast is. So thanks for defining it.
No, because I've had people listen to the podcast and say, what is a podcast? They've listened to it and still not known really what it is.
That's like reading a book and saying, no,
it's not. It's not, because you're just hearing the sounds out of the computer. You don't know what it's.
Oh, right. It could be from something else. I see. Right. Anyway, yeah. So the singer-songwriters series, I have to give Chuck a shout out for also not only playing with us on acoustic and singing, but also he was a guest, one of the local talent.
Oh, that's
remember
right.
that?
That's
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
I was considered talent.
You
at
were
the time.
actually internationally known in one country. And
What are you talking about? In the United States?
in Namibia.
In Namibia.
You're a U.S. and Namibia star. So anyway,
Yes.
I'm sorry for anyone that is actually listening in Namibia again for the second time. I need to be more educated about the people of Namibia. Anyway, and then you were very helpful with concert window, because I remember I'd be like panicking 3 minutes before we were supposed to start in Framingham, Mass, and sort of texting Chuck, who's probably the poor
Right.
guy's out at a restaurant or something.
No, I
I'm
was
like,
at home.
get online on your phone, see if you can hear us.
But the problem with that is that there's a latency, like we talked about earlier.
Big time.
Like by like a minute or so.
Yeah.
So like I would see something and I'd text you, about 5 minutes ago this happened. You got to fix that. But it all worked out.
Yeah.
So, anyways, that's how the podcast got started. It's my turn to ask you a question.
Sure, we can ask more questions. And who is this from?
This one is from Phil in Namibia. He just texted me. Where does Above the Basement? Where does that come from? Well, this is gonna be boring ones in the beginning, or like not quite so deep.
Oh, I forgot to tell you, I got some feedback this weekend about the podcast in general. I was thinking that it would be probably good for us to have some kind of focus group to figure out what people like, what people don't like. Now that we've had many episodes, and have like a survey.
We can
or
do
whatever.
monkey survey. They do
Survey monkey.
Survey Monkey. Speaking of attention span, let's get back to the questions.
Yeah,
Okay.
sorry. So sorry, Phil. Above the Basement. The name itself, it just sort of came. I think it came.
Do you know
Chuck
the
thought of
answer?
It came. I'm working on it. It came. The idea that you're sort of creating things, and people are playing music in their basement. They're recording. There's sort of a lot of times people rehearse there. Creative ideas will come within or in the basement, and then you have the courage to sort of step out of the basement. And what sort of happens when you break your comfort level and you get out there as an artist, potentially a writer, potentially as a podcast host. It's supposed to resonate with people to say, okay, there's staying in your basement and then there's getting out.
Well, these are the people who have done that. The people that we're talking to.
Right.
They've risen above the basement.
Exactly.
Well said. Actually, not really, but I'll give you a little pat in the back. Anyways,
Well said with editing.
I don't know how I can edit that. You want to ask the next question? These aren't going to be in any like type of order. So far, we've kind of been in order, but not. They don't always have to be that way.
This is kind of a random one. Someone asked, what kind of sports do you guys play or like to watch?
I don't play sports. I used to play basketball a long time ago, but playing sports, no, I don't do that anymore. But I watch all the four bigs: football, baseball, basketball, hockey. All of my Boston teams. I don't watch soccer. That's the only one I don't watch.
Right.
Unless it's the World Cup, I'll watch that. How about yourself? Aren't you a highlight champion?
Hurling.
Hurling. We're not talking about your college days.
I watch a lot of sports, and it's usually like 9 and 12-year-olds playing,
right. Well, yeah, my kids don't do
softball and
sports.
baseball and basketball and swimming, and it's actually kind of fun.
Yeah.
It's the most I've ever learned about sports in my life,
Yeah.
actually through kids' sports. And then I'll watch the Olympics. I'll definitely watch football. I do currently watch a little bit of football and baseball on TV. I always think I'm going to turn this back into music a little bit. I always think of playing in groups, and no matter if you're classical or jazz or rock, there's something about, and Charles Haynes talked about this in a podcast, in an episode that's coming out tomorrow or this week. It's like a team sport. There's an element of communication there, and it's really not all just about one guy or one girl. And when it's done right, it's a team.
Right.
So
Good. All right, I got a good one for you. Who was that question from? You didn't tell me.
Oh, that was Dave in Sudbury.
Oh, okay. This one's from Chuck and Carlisle. How do you choose your guests?
Is this for me?
I'm looking at you as I ask the question. Is there anyone else here?
Adam?
I don't ask the rhetorical questions of myself out loud. Adam's painting. Leave him alone. He's above the basement doing his fork drawing on the window of Woods Hill table.
He's drawing roots,
Yes,
which
he
are
is.
sort of below the basement.
Answer the question.
The fork is above.
How do we choose our guests? You can expand that to like how do we get them? And
Yeah, I mean, we certainly have specific people in the area that we seek out, and then there's people that seek out us. There's been a few people that have asked us. It happens both ways. Sometimes it's luck. Sometimes we email or Facebook or go through management or what have you, and you're going to get people that are coming through town that have some kind of connection to Boston in some way. Like Chuck said, we asked people we knew and that we played with initially, and then certainly those people have played with others and have been inspired by others, and we will contact them. And then we sort of brainstorm together, and Chuck has this mega spreadsheet of who we have talked to, who we want to.
Yes. I mean, actually, one of the first things I did was just sit down and just write down everybody I could think of, and then look up people who are the movers and shakers, who are at bands around here, wish lists, things like that. But we also try to mix it up. We try not to just do singer-songwriter or jazz or classical. We try to get some hip-hop and rap. We try to mix it up. We try to get all different demographics and types of music, and we have to do better at that, but we do try. So we try to mix it up. And not only musicians, we try to get bloggers, ironically enough. We've gotten band managers. We've gotten venue bookers. We've gotten a few prostitutes, I think. Music prostitutes.
Yeah.
You're a music prostitute.
I will play with anyone.
I think that's exactly what it is. That's what it is. Music prostitute is someone who plays covers and will play with anybody. I just made that up on the spot. Maybe we'll cut that one out.
That'd be a good podcast. A very specific niche.
Yeah, specific niche. Just the prostitutes.
Yeah, that'll succeed.
All right, your turn.
This is from Bob in Glasgow, Scotland.
Sweet.
It says, has anyone ever refused to sit with you?
Yes, they have. I mentioned this in a previous podcast. Okay, the only person who actually flat out, let me put it this way. The first person who flat out refused to do it was the amazing Mike Connors.
Yeah.
He is a drummer extraordinaire, and he's played with many people. And his wife is the wonderful Britt Connors, who's been a previous guest. And we actually talked about it on her podcast, on her episode. We said
that he refused.
And we asked him, and he said, I said, Mike, you want to come on the podcast? He goes, no, you don't want to talk to me. I said, no, we really do. We really want to talk to you. No, I have nothing to say at all. And I totally disagree with that. I think he has a lot to say because he's a talented guy, smart guy.
Well, he's worked with many people.
We'll get him on. We'll get him on eventually. We're going to get you, Mike. Yeah. I hope.
I think that we have, like, Soda Jerker again talked about getting like Paul McCartney on or a Beatle someday, and we have our people on the list too, and I think high on that top 5 list is really Mike Connors.
Yeah,
we will get you, Mike Connors.
We're going to get you. And then there are people who we've literally just emailed out of the blue.
Natalie Merchant's people. We
emailed her because she was playing at Tanglewood, right? And they emailed back and said, thank you for the request. She's not going to be able to do this. We appreciate you reaching out, which is great. They can't say yes to anybody, and she doesn't know who we are.
It's good business too. I mean, people it's nice. It's nice to do that. It's just an email.
It's just polite.
Yeah.
Me and being polite.
Yeah. Email back.
I don't like when people are not polite and don't respond. And so I really appreciate when, even if they say no, it's fine. It's not a big deal.
Like all of these questions that you've asked around the country, around the world, out there, and all those listeners, thank you for emailing us because Chuck emails you right back.
If I get an email from a fan or from someone asking to come on, I do respond.
Yes.
I can't promise you can come on, but I certainly appreciate the ask. My turn?
Yes.
Where do you record the conversations, and where have you recorded the conversations?
We are very fortunate and thankful to the Woods Hill Table, which is located in West Concord, Massachusetts.
It's not the Woods Hill Table. Well, it is. Technically, it is the Woods Hill Table, but the name of the restaurant is Woods Hill Table, just to be specific and kind of an asshole.
Is there more than one?
No. I mean, it's not like it's saying the Ohio State University, that kind of thing.
One could.
Just answer the question. What was the question?
I don't know.
Where do we record this?
This is a great restaurant. It's farm to table. Chef Charlie Foster does an amazing job. They have a farm up in New Hampshire. They raise their own meat.
This is like, you don't have to do the copy that we do for them.
But it's
but it is a great restaurant.
So we're here on Monday nights for many of the episodes. I would say, I don't know, 2/3 of them or 3/4. Otherwise, we take it on the road, which has been really fun. Mm-hmm. We've been from places in a apartment in Somerville all the way to Symphony Hall, and a few places in between. We are lucky to record at Club Passim, the Club Passim, and the Sinclair. which is down in Cambridge. Anyway, so it's great to do these in different locations, and this equipment is pretty solid. It's pretty good, but it's also very portable.
Yeah, so we have a suitcase, an old suitcase, and a couple of hard cases to hold the microphones and some of the more electronic stuff, and then my laptop in a little bag. And so there's like 4 or 5 things we have to carry with us, but certainly easy enough to do. And yeah, so the reason why we can do it in this restaurant is because it's closed. If they're open, we cannot record here, just because for obvious reasons. But because they're closed on Mondays, I have an inn, and we can sit here and record here. And I've been told that people have come to the Mater D desk and have asked, "Where's the radio show recorded?"
It's a blog.
And usually we record it in the back area. There's 2 sliding glass doors, but it's just much nicer to be out here in the windows rather than in the back room. We may go back there once in a while, but out here it's not too bad. And
we get people coming up to the window with their hands around their eyes, sort of like squinting and saying, "Who the heck are those guys?"
Yeah, wondering if we're getting fed.
All right, I have another question.
Yeah.
Do you guys come
the train?
into
By the
these-
way, if you ever hear that
train,
that's the train in the background. Occasionally you'll hear like a rumbling in the background during our podcast. That's the Fitchburg line train into Boston, or coming out of Boston anyways.
So this next question is something that a few people have asked. Do you have a plan, or is this improv, like off the cuff?
So, one of the things when we first started talking about how we were going to do this, we were going to have a set list of questions where we were going to have people email questions in. Anyways, we decided just logistically, it just ended up not being something we could do or wanted to do. I think what's special about this is that it is a conversation. It's right in our title, Boston Music and Conversation. And it is. So when we sit here with our guests, we do our research. We listen to their music. We just find out who they are. We try to formulate like a good 5-10 questions that are just like in our heads. But wherever the conversation goes, that's where it goes. It's a conversation. You don't go and write down questions when you're about to just go out to a dinner party. You just ask. You just talk. And certainly, like if we're on a topic for too long, or we just want to kind of move the conversation along, we may refer to our notes and ask questions that we thought of. But for the most part, we like to just let it go where it is. And one of the good things is that I do edit it afterwards. So if I ask a stupid question, which I know never happens,
it's true.
We can edit it out. If we end up talking too much about one thing for too long, I can shorten it. Don't mean to be disrespectful to our guests, but it's just for time's sake. And to that point, we don't do conversations over the phone because
don't call us.
Don't call us. We won't call you. It's a personal thing. You're looking across the table at the person who's talking to you. You're in the same room. It's a different dynamic. I think it's more personal. It's more.
Yeah, I think that when you also. Why are you looking at your watch?
I'm just checking the time.
I hate when you do that.
You bore me. We've been pretty lucky, though. Our guests have, for the most part, been very forthcoming and very natural, and it's all been really good. We really haven't had a problem pulling information out of people or anything like that. But it was certainly something that we kind of, I don't want to say freaked out about when we first started this, but it's like, we got to make sure we're prepared, and we don't want to have dead air. And dead air is perfectly fine. Dead air happens in conversations, and I can edit out dead air if there's any dead air. So we've become more relaxed as we've had these. We certainly will get nervous with if we've talked to some bigger names, but usually halfway through or once we start talking.
Why do you think that is about someone has a bigger name? Like, is it like a jitteriness around a celebrity, or is it, I'm asking myself too, is there something about me that like gets self-conscious because I want to do a good job in front of them? I don't really know. It's a combination, I guess, but I think there's a mystique. For instance, I'll talk about Don Henley. His voice, when you hear his voice, whether you're a big fan or you're not a fan at all, you hear that voice on a dark desert highway or Boys of Summer or whatever. It's imprinted in my brain as like a teenager. I hear that voice and he's like an instrument. He's like a thing. He's not a guy. It's a juxtaposition of the fact that there's actually a guy. It's just a regular guy that needs to use the bathroom just like you.
That's well said.
I gotta pee, sorry. But, he's just a guy.
Yeah.
But what is it about those? What is it about those people?
I think part of it could be that they have a lot of people asking for their time. God knows how many requests per day Don gets to talk to journalists or whatever. So there's that pressure of us being the journalist, I guess. We're interviewing him, so to speak.
That's interesting. That's kind of a tangible reason why I think they may get the jitters.
Yeah.
To say, oh, here's another schmo that wants to.
Yeah, and you don't want them to be like, that was a stupid question. He seriously asked me that question. You don't want to say things stupid, right? I'm 49 years old. I'm still insecure about that.
Yeah.
But I'm not as much anymore. I'm getting better at it. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
When Don was here, I thought it was good. I thought it was a good casual conversation. He was a fantastic guy and just very down to earth and was more than happy to talk to us. And so that was great.
He still doesn't answer my texts though. I text him every day.
Yeah. I can't imagine why.
Yeah.
So there you go. There's that. What's your favorite thing about doing the podcast?
I think that I like the idea of the next conversation. There's the whole project itself, and then there's sort of each podcast or each conversation. And I look at the act of that as, ironically, art. I'm going to get to the point in a second, but I feel that as someone that's done a lot of music in my life and tried to perform and sing and write music, the fact that we are sitting in these seats and asking others about their craft and getting into their head and trying to expose them and promote them and into their head as far as like what makes them tick and about their musicianship and everything else. I've found that it's ironic that my own writing or my own playing has been sacrificed. I feel like what I meant to say about each episode looking forward to as sort of like an art form is that personally, what I like about the podcast is that it's taken that place in my life right now as an outlet. I don't know. I look forward to each episode for that reason. So it's not a very specific reason, but it's something that it's sort of a general feeling I have about ATB.
No, I totally agree. And it's my playing has definitely suffered. I'm not picking up the guitar as much, but one of my favorite moments is when I click publish and then I just look at those download numbers. I don't know what it is. It's like crack cocaine for me. I like watching I think it's me it's almost like if you put out an album, right? You come out with a CD and it's on iTunes or wherever it is and you see people listening to what you put together. It's exciting. It's like your art, whatever you put together. This project, with the editing and the just the logistical part of it and
the photography, the music,
everything, the websites, the Facebook, all the social media, putting it all together and putting it out there. And it's exciting for me, and it's also exciting. I get excited when the artist gets excited. They promote it themselves, and they really enjoy it, and it's a communal thing. We're helping somebody get their music out there, and I really take a lot of pride in that. I mean, a lot of people may not have been, Walter Sickert and the Army of Broken Toys. You're exposing different, whether you're a jazz listener or a classical listener or whatever it might be, you're exposing them to other genres of music that they wouldn't be necessarily exposed to. So that excites me. I like that a lot.
I agree. And I think that the publishing, that button that you press, it's as if you've just created another song on an album. I love the fact, no matter how you look at it, no matter where this project is or where it's going, all these people are sort of part of the Above the Basement family in a sense. Just the other day, I posted an ATB alum posting on who was it?
Adam Ezra.
Adam Ezra and John Oates were playing together. So it's like, here's an update on two of these guys. And I think there's kind of like a pride moment there where you're continuing to promote within the family, so to speak.
Yeah, absolutely. Although I must say, I never go back and listen to the old episodes, mainly because I've heard them probably God knows how many times when I was editing them. So I never go back and listen to them again like I would maybe my music. Although I don't do that very often either.
That's true. Yeah. Well, that's one thing I like about any podcast, and what I like about this one, because we're, obviously we've created it. So what's pretty cool is that even though we'll talk about some things that are timely and maybe promote an event or someone's playing or whatever, they don't have a real time quality to them that they can exist. So, in 5 years from now, if someone listens to the Reggie Gibson episode, it may still resonate with them. It's like music in that sense, or a book.
I think it's almost a double-edged there, though. It can be a time capsule of where they were at that moment.
Right.
Like, for example, Charles Haynes talking about his 8-year-old daughter. He could listen to that 10 years from now and think, wow, my daughter was 8 years old when I did this, and this is what I was doing. This is the project I was doing. And I don't know, it's just a time capsule in that way too.
Yeah.
But it certainly is timeless. I mean, you're timeless, Ronnie.
Oh, thanks.
All right. So let's do a couple more and then did I ask you a question or did you ask me a question?
Oh.
All right.
What do you like? Oh, you asked me what I like about the podcast.
Oh, yeah.
We talked for a while, and
it's your question.
We gave each other a podcast bro hug the entire time. I felt love. I always feel love for Chuck, but this was sort of podcast love occurring at the same time.
I'm sorry. I was looking at my Facebook status. Did you say something? Did you say something? I wasn't listening. So you ask a question now. One more question each. So make it a good one.
This is, I don't know what number question is, but there's a few people that I get personally emails or, on Facebook, or just people that I've talked to in real life that are really impressed with the photography. And it's a big part of what I think ATB is. So who are they? Like, how did you find them?
Yeah, absolutely. It was one of the first things I started doing was reaching out to people I knew, and I reached out to Michelle Gendreau first because she'd taken pictures of my sister's kids for Christmas, and they came out great. And I told her about the project, and she said, I know somebody, Mr. Joe Wallace of Joe Wallace Photography, and he does it for a living, and he's an excellent photographer. And so they kind of tag team. Sometimes it's both of them, each taking pictures. They both have a different kind of way of taking pictures, and we get some different angles and different views. Sometimes it's just Joe, sometimes just Michelle. We were lucky enough to have my daughter because, family and other commitments sometimes make it so that everyone can't make it. So my daughter came and took pictures, Hannah. But they are fantastic, and I know that the artist really appreciates it, and I know some of them have even used the pictures for their own, PR for their music, and it's a huge part. I mean, we really try to make a nice slick. At least it's much better now than it used to be. But the website, since we updated the website, it really can highlight those pictures. They're much bigger and very high quality. So we are very lucky to have two professionals like Joe and Michelle on board.
And we like them as people.
No, we don't.
Well, we like Michelle.
Okay. So that's that last question. So we are in Woods Hill Table. Unfortunately, it is closed. Where do we go after we do a podcast? We don't do it all the time, but once in a while we do it. And
I'm looking over at the 99 right now.
The 99's been very good to us. We know Lisa behind the bar, and she's been very good to us.
But it's a great place, and please check it out. And Red Sox, if they win, the kids eat free the next day.
Yes, that's what I've heard. I love.
You ever been to a ground round?
I went to when I was a kid.
When I was a kid, we used to go to the ground round probably once a week.
They had peanuts, and there was sawdust on the floor and everything.
I thought it was just popcorn everywhere. Was it? Peanuts?
They had popcorn, but they had peanuts.
Too, yeah.
I remember when they couldn't.
That's
do that.
why no one had peanut allergies back then.
They couldn't do it
because
anymore.
Everyone went to the ground round.
If you want to have an allergic reaction, you go to the ground round.
Well, no, we grew up going to places like the ground round, and that's why no one had because we were exposed.
Yeah,
they had great burgers.
I don't remember. I was 7. All right. So, anyways, so it's been a pleasure. The 50 episodes. We're about to talk to Ruby Rose Fox for episode number 51. Charles Haynes, the great drummer, is number 49, and we will have many more to come.
We do have Blue Man Group next week.
Blue Man Group, Jonathan Brooke, Alistair Mook, and a lot of other people. One other thing I've noticed, and one thing I've learned through this is to ask.
Yeah.
It's a scary thing to ask somebody to do something. And now I'm almost a pain in the butt now because I'm not afraid to ask.
You're a pain in the ass.
I'll just ask. And people, or a request, or send emails, people respond. People will, they may not say yes, but asking can sometimes be hard for people. And I highly recommend, this is something that I've learned on this. Ask. Don't be a jerk about it, but ask, and you never know who's going to say yes and what kind of doors it opens for you. And that's something I've learned here. What have you learned, Ron?
I think that's true. I think you've asked me a lot of things. and I don't want to do a lot of them. No, but I agree, and it's been fun. Thanks for having me on the podcast.
Oh, it's my pleasure.
Yeah.
And
Feels
also,
like a guest.
we've also had, just as an aside, we've also had Jonathan Beakley on as a guest host, and
Yes.
Bonnie Hayes has been on as a guest host.
Yeah. And we should give a shout out to our wonderful board of advisors.
Yes, Vincent LaRusso and Ike Walker and Jonathan Beakley and Paul Alexander. But there's a lot of people who have helped us, and the people we're forgetting, we want to thank you. And here's to another 50 episodes.
Cheers, man.
So there you go. Again, we would like to thank all our listeners, friends, and family for the support this past year. It's been quite a trip so far, and we have much to look forward to in the months ahead. Go to abovethebasement.com where you can sign up for our newsletter, listen and subscribe to our podcast, like our Facebook page, follow us on Twitter, and look at all the nice pictures we post on Instagram. We are everywhere. On behalf of Ronnie and myself, thanks for listening. Tell your friends, and remember, Boston music, like its history, is unique.